Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Power Hour. I'm Louis Grubbs, the president of Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors for 2020. Our Power Hour series features curated classes at 10 a.m. It is also a great way to connect with industry experts and a place to cultivate professional development skills. Registration is live on RRAR.com for our last module next Monday. We will take a little break and then pick the series back up after Labor Day, so please register for the next one. Thank you to our series sponsor, Ed Robertson with HomeTeam Inspection Service. Ed, take a few minutes to tell us about your business.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ed Robertson. My company's HomeTeam Inspection Service. At HomeTeam, we provide residential and commercial property inspections and a full suite of ancillary services typically needed during that real estate transaction. That includes pre-purchase, pre-listing, anything in a normal transactional real estate activity. Additionally, on new construction, we provide pre-drywall inspections. We do a lot of new construction, as you can imagine, in this market, and we have a depth of experience also with very old homes. In the area of the ancillary services, the termite inspection, radon testing, well and septic, water analysis, sewer line scoping, we inspect swimming pools. We can also do indoor air quality and mold testing. We've got contractor partners to bring along for HVAC diagnostic if someone needs that, and also chimney inspections. In the area of technology, the way our service is set up makes the entire process easy for the agent and the client. 24/7 online scheduling at our website. If you go to the About tab on the website, you can see a sample report. It is, I believe, the easiest to read in the business. We have contract e-sign online, online payment, or a client can pay on site. We deliver reports as rapidly as possible, very often the same day, but certainly within 24 hours. And that's via web link, easy to download, easy to read. Our customer service, we've got live customer service agent 8 to 5 weekdays, and very often I'm available. It rolls to my cell after hours, and very often evenings and weekends. If you have an urgency, you can get me direct. We're always available for follow-up questions. Our reviews we can do live or via Zoom in this environment. I also have several classes that I provide for agents on the topics of home inspection, HVAC systems, and radon gas. If you're interested in that for your office, be happy to provide that. We work very judiciously to serve your clients in a way that's informative and helpful, keep the drama down, help them understand what we're looking at so that they can make informed decisions along with you to decide what they want to do going forward. We do appreciate your referrals, and if you haven't worked with HomeTeam, we hope you'll give us a call. Ed Robertson, HomeTeam Inspection Service.
Thank you, Ed, for sponsoring our series. We appreciate it, and we know you do a great job for our membership. So we also appreciate the fact that everyone is joining us today as we plan for profit with Brent Lancaster. Brent Lancaster combines his love of the business of real estate with his passion for education. As president and CEO of one of the nation's oldest real estate schools, he offers a variety of solutions to challenges agents face in today's real estate environment. In 2003, Brent developed his first online course and has spent every year since continually searching for innovative ways to bring quality and consistency to every agent using multiple delivery formats. Today, he continues to teach classroom instruction, but has also transformed the traditional brick and mortar classroom into a multimedia educational experience. Brent is also the broker owner of his own real estate firm, Brent Lancaster and Associates. He lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with his wife of 15 years, Laura, his 2 children, Leighton, 7, and Nate, 5, and Lily, the office dog. Welcome, Brent.
Yeah. We can't help but bring Lily in there. So thanks, Louis. I really appreciate it. Really glad to be here. Super time. So I'm coming to you, like we said earlier, from a very rainy Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So really appreciate the opportunity. We'll jump right into things. Super duper. Glad to see everybody. Welcome. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is a really cool series. I'm really excited about having the opportunity to do that. So what we're going to do today is generally just talk about planning for profit. And I always say it's not about the money that you make, it's about the money that you keep. Within the first 2 years of my real estate business, I had a mentor tell me that, and I've never forgotten it. It's been something that we've been kind of working on throughout the years. But for the most part, one of the things we want to talk about today is kind of your business setup, your business framework. We want to talk about who's involved. How can you interview these people? What questions do you ask? Can we do it for to little to no money? And then we can jump into some specifics there as well. But this being kind of a limited scope, I would invite anybody to feel free to just ask questions. So just unmute and shout out, hey, you, stop talking. I want to ask a question. I'd be more than happy to answer those. So if you want to ask questions, feel free to do that either live. I'm monitoring the chat as well. So we'll be more than happy to answer those as well. And then we'll try and leave some time at the end should you need some answers to some questions. We'll be happy to do that. So let's get rolling, shall we? So welcome. So the planning for profit is really kind of where we are. And as we talked about, it's not really this. I think there's a lot of courses out there that really talk about making money and generating income and GCI, and I think those are all good. But what I want to focus on is kind of what I call the other half of your business, and quite frankly, the most inefficient half of your business. And it's not necessarily bringing money in, but it's keeping money. So hopefully by the end of this hour, what we're going to do is you have some strategies in place where you have the opportunity to go out and at least save some money as well. So first thing I want to do is talk about the difference between income and profit. Income is very important. It's something that I do think you need to focus on, but I don't think we need to stop there. What we want to be able to do is focus on profit, focus on keeping that. And it's important to understand that there's a difference, that there's a big difference between making money and keeping money, particularly in this. Now, my lawyer made me include this. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an accountant. So if you sue me and your defense is Brent says, I'll probably lie and say that I never said it. So I forget that we're recording it. This recording will self-destruct should anything happen there. So in any event, I do think it's important, number one, that we talk freely about money. Money is important. I think we need to have the discussion. I think you need to have the conversation. There are people, we're going to talk about the team in just a second, but it's important that you understand that money needs to be talked about. It's something that we're not taught in school, which I'm trying to change as well. Your mentors, sometimes your parents weren't the best example. Your friends aren't the best example. So a lot of times we really don't know who to look up to. They may be good people, but they just may be terrible in their world with money. So looking for that example sometimes can be a little bit hard. And let's be honest, sometimes folks work W-2. They may be very judicious with money. Well, if you're not a W-2 employee, you're an independent contractor like us, the business is just different. The things are just different there as well. The one thing that I want you to understand is choices and sort of as we relate to business. I'm not telling you don't. This isn't the no class. This isn't cancel all your subscriptions and don't get all the latest and greatest technology. That's not really the method that I want to go down. But basically the way that I look at a business plan and planning for profit is every single choice that you make has consequences, right? There's kind of what we call an opportunity cost. So I have an economics background. I have a degree in economics and finance. So it's something that I really like, but I like to look on the economic principle of what they call opportunity cost. If I spend money on A, that means that I'm losing out or there's the chance that I can't spend money on B. And I want you to understand that that's a very conscious decision that you may in fact make. So I think we run our business really by the way we look at the temperature of a room, right? You're sitting in your room, you're sitting in a house. I want you to figure out, what is the temperature like? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it comfortable? Quite honestly, I'm a little warm in here. My jacket's coming off in just a second. But generally, when you sit in a room, and you've been in an education room, and I've been in a lot of education rooms, and what happens is half the room thinks it's freezing, half the room thinks it's hot, so you spend the whole day adjusting things up and down, right? The optimal temperature of a room is about 72 degrees for maximum efficiency there. Thinking about your room, how many of you think your room is, the temperature's higher? How many of you think the temperature is lower? All right, and it's a good parallel to kind of how we run business. Is we run our business in a lot of ways rather, because we think something is working. And if we base our business based on how something feels, then I don't know that we're being very productive. And that's sort of where we're going to go. A lot of times we look at lead generation stuff and we think it feels like it's working. It seems like it's working. Well, I would challenge you to dig into the numbers and say, okay, this is how much money I spent on this particular campaign, whether it be a marketing campaign, whether it be a CRM, whether it be lead generation, whether we're purchasing leads, and then turn around and flip it and say, all right, how much money did I make off of this? And see if there's a direct comparison with the money that you spent versus the money that you make. It's not about how it feels. It is a little bit of how you want to do. So first things first, let's take a look at the rules, a couple of things. All right, before we get started, I want to look at some rules about business planning. Rule number one, it has to be unique to you. We all have different personalities. We certainly all have different business models. So your business plan really, to a large degree, can't be modeled off of somebody else. If you're looking, you can ask for advice, and certainly I would encourage you to seek advice, but it's going to be unique to you, right? And that all goes down to your philosophy. And Jim Rome said it best when he said, it's not about the economy, it's about your philosophy with money. So you need to understand, what is your philosophy with money? All right, how do you see what money is? Is money a driver? Is money a resource, right? So what is your philosophy? Are you more aggressive? Are you more conservative? Are you middle of the road? And I think coming to grips with your understanding of money will really help provide that support that's around you. Because if you're very conservative with money, then there's a chance that there may be something that can really increase the efficiency of your business. And if you're scared to purchase that, then quite frankly, your business may be a little bit more inefficient. On the flip side, if you're very aggressive in terms of money, maybe there's somebody that you need to find that can help pull back the reins or help measure more specifically a little bit about where you are. So think about what your philosophy is and how you go about spending money and making business decisions. Because make no mistake, anytime that you spend money, it is a business decision, and we need to start thinking a little bit more clearly of that as well. So what's your philosophy as it relates there? Number two is be honest with yourself. A lot of times we make business plans where we're not as honest as we can. Sometimes, there's a lot of courses out there that say double your business overnight and make $1 million in real estate, which I can appreciate, but the reality is it's not real. Right? I think there is some ways to have exponential growth, but we need to go ahead and base it on reality. So the first 6 months of this year, certainly last year, can be a good basis. From here going forward, the next 5 to 6 months, probably the next into 2020, I would assume that, every business plan that you made at the beginning of the year, that got set on fire somewhere in the middle of March. And we're just trying to figure it out. So now might be the time to reassess. We were kind of talking about a little bit about the rules, and the third rule was don't beat yourself up. I'm a big believer in financial health. One of the big, the number one cause of divorce is financial issues. When you run into financial issues, it causes stress, it causes anxiety. And that's really the idea, is we want to be able to release or relieve a lot of those things and a lot of those stresses that we have. So the first strategy that I want to talk about is the main differences, right? Is we may have people in our lives that are regular, I guess, W-2 employees. And you see a lot of business plans and a lot of things that are designed based on what I would call regular accounting and bookkeeping practices. You've got a lot of really good financial service people that are out there, the Dave Ramseys of the world, the Susie Ormans of the world, et cetera, et cetera. And all of those have some really good philosophies, many that I subscribe to. But for an independent contractor, sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, when you think about creating a monthly budget based on our business, it being so cyclical, it gets a little bit difficult. So we're more of a variable income. So one of the first things that I decided to do a long time ago is not think month to month. I really like the opportunity of thinking quarter to quarter. Because a lot of times, I've got deals that are in the pipeline now that aren't going to close until sometime next month. All right. And we had some deals last month that didn't exactly make it all the way to closing, but hopefully they'll be pushed off to next month as well. We had one this weekend that accidentally fell apart through no fault of my own. But for the most part, from that standpoint, deals can be pushed off a week, 2 weeks, sometimes a month. Sometimes deals essentially fall through. So when you're looking at a monthly budget, many times, because the income can be so variable, you might be short 1 month and you might be in excess the next month. So one strategy that we've decided to employ is to think quarterly. So in a 3-month budget, I have found it's a lot easier for me to absorb the highs and the lows. Because if I can look at January, February, March, and I can look at, okay, I know what my bills are for over these 3 months, it's a lot easier for me to plan via season. Because January, February, March is typically the winter months, which things are kind of getting rolling. The next quarter, April, May, June, are typically going to be my busiest that we have. We're going to have another reasonably good quarter most of the time in July, August, September. And then October, November, December is going to wrap up that particular year. So one of the strategies that I think you can employ is try looking at it on a 3-month schedule as opposed to a month-to-month budget. Because that way, instead of the curve being so up and down, it can kind of even it out certainly a little bit easier, but it gives you the opportunity there as well. So think about a 3-month budget instead of a 1-month budget. Or you can think of a semi-annual budget. When you start thinking in terms of 3 months, there's no reason that you can't say, okay, what does it look like semi-annually? What are my bills looking like semi-annually? And then, of course, if you get really good, you can think about it on an annual basis, and you can pay everything one time on an annual basis. But start thinking quarterly, and for me, it alleviated a lot of the stress because you're not working month to month. You're really working quarter to quarter there as well. There's a good book out there called The 12-Week Year, which it doesn't go in a business standpoint, but from a goal-setting standpoint, it can really set your mind to start thinking about 12 weeks. And basically what it does is it says, all right, instead of thinking annually, think in 12-week cycles. So that's a really good one there as well. I will tell you, delayed gratification is a problem, I guess, an issue in our society. So in this instance, think about the opportunity cost. All right, I do think that there's going to be some sacrifices that are going to be available to you. So the first question that I have for you is, how much time do you actually spend on your business? All right, and I always equate this to a vacation. You think about, remember when we used to have those things called vacations, and we used to plan and we used to do all that. As a matter of fact, today's the first day back to work from our family vacation. We went to the beach for a week. We had a house, and when it comes to trying to rent, you start looking at all the rentals, and then you start trying to figure it out. We had some additional family come in, and so we had to get a bigger house, which means we had to do more research and all of this. So you spend all this time researching and planning flights and logistics and activities and different things like that. And you think about all the time that goes in just to planning a week's vacation. How much time do you think about your specific business? What if you worked on your business as long as you worked on planning your vacation? I think if you spent a little bit more time, you'd be a little bit more successful. The next thing I want to talk about is in our world, it's very difficult to separate business from personal. I also think it's a mistake because we're so intertwined. I mean, good gracious, most of us are working from home as it happens right now. So from that standpoint, your business finances and your personal finances are incredibly intertwined. So to be able to separate those, I think might be a mistake, because your business hopefully is going to fund a lot of what's going on in your life. And you want your business to be profitable, because if your business is profitable, then it makes your life a heck of a lot happier. Okay. So that's where, I think a lot of people say, all right, we're going to separate business from personal. I'm not a big fan. The next point that we want to talk about is the team. And this is kind of where I think we need to realize that it is a team effort. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go hire assistants or create a team or anything like that. What I want to talk about is your financial team. You need more or less of a financial team put in place. You're going to need and rely on experts. All right, experts will make you more efficient. They'll cover your behind, and they will help you worry less about the monetary side of your business. And you say, Brent, well, I don't need a team. And I always rely on the words of my good friend, Terry Watson. I don't know if y'all know Terry. He's much more energetic and has way much more energy than I do. He always says, Jesus had a team. And my best Terry Watson impersonation, Brent, Jesus had a team. You need a team. Jesus had a team. So he says, if Jesus had a team, then we all need a team. So let's take a look and see what the team looks like. So we're going to take a little bit over each one there as well. We'll talk about some questions that you need to ask each one. Who can bring on the board? For those of you that are looking and worried if a ninja is one, we're not going to talk about this one. It's just I know that some of you are type A and wanted everything to line up perfectly. So we just created there's only 7 members, but we just created an 8th in there to make things kind of line up the way that they need. So the first one's going to be spouse, partner, whoever's living with you as well. I do think that they need to be a part of the financial discussion. And financial discussions are a little bit more difficult. A lot of times they're difficult to have, but I do think it needs to be an open and an honest discussion about family finances. And generally, when you start looking at partners and spouses and different things, one person's good with money, one person is not good with money. And I would kind of encourage you to at least bring everybody into the fold. You may not be good with money, but it's at least having the conversation and knowing where your money's headed to give you that peace of mind. I walked in the door today and found out one of our employees and their brother-in-law had passed away suddenly Saturday night. So, when you start looking at major life changes, if one person's not good with money and the other person's good with money and that person goes away for whatever reason, you need to know what's going on in your financial life. So I do think everybody needs to be involved in the decision-making process. And what happens is everything's fine when life is good. But when things get difficult, all of a sudden, having that financial discussion, and if you're not involved, or maybe your spouse or your partner's not involved, and you start saying, hey, we need to cut spending, all of a sudden they may say, well, why are you cutting my spending and not your spending? But if they're involved in the conversation, then everybody can kind of see what's going on. Again, when you start looking at fights, arguments, divorces, separations, a lot of that stems over money, and I think it's because we don't necessarily talk about it. A good practice is once a week. Just go have lunch or go have dinner by yourself and make it a financial discussion. I work with my wife. I live with my wife. We're very much intertwined, and we try really hard to have a lunch. I don't want to do dinner, but we leave our office. We go to lunch once a month, and we try and talk just about our personal finances and our business finances. I found that to be very almost relieving, where we now know how much we're saving, how much we're spending. We look back and go, wow, we spent a lot of money that month. So we're able to, at least as a team, kind of move forward. So we can make decisions a lot faster and a lot easier because we're consistently on the same page. So make it a date night and be specific about that as well. So the spouse is very important. The next one we want to look at is an insurance agent. What do you need to talk about your insurance agent? Number one, let's check your limits. Make sure that all your limits are going to be sufficient. Most specifically, your automobile. If you're putting people in your automobile, many of your companies have required minimum limits. Ask what they are. okay? Because what you want to be able to do is have at least enough insurance to, if you get sued, for you to be covered. And I'll give you the perfect example. Let's say that you're, working with a physician. I have a good friend that's a physician. They get in my car. We start going to look at houses. All of a sudden, I accidentally run a red light, totally didn't see it. We get in an accident. They break their arm. They're not able to work for a year, maybe ever. All right. Well, if they're a surgeon, let's say, chances are I'm getting sued. Why? Because they're out of work. So do I have enough limits to be able to cover that as well? And when you get sued, the insurance company is going to pay to defend you. But should a settlement occur, they're only going to pay up to the policy limit. So if it's $100,000, $200,000, that sort of thing, you want to make sure that you're covered. I have another friend that is a trial attorney, and he never, ever, ever lets anyone ride in the car with him. And I think it's funny because that's what he does all day, right? Is he defends, he sues insurance companies as it relates to car accidents. So just take a page out of him, take a page out of his book as it relates to that. That's how careful he is as well. So if you don't know what your car insurance limits are, ask. The other piece is an umbrella policy. You brokers, I would highly recommend this as well. An umbrella policy is liability limits over and above your original limits. They cover you both personally and in some cases professionally. You can get $1 million, $2 million for relatively inexpensive. This is a relatively inexpensive coverage there as well. I'm not trying to sell you insurance. I'm not an insurance salesman, but I do think it's something that you at least need to look at. Professional liability. I don't know if you're a mandatory E&O state, but errors and omissions insurance, should you get sued as a result of your professional liability, again, I think it's important. What happens if you are a mandatory E&O state? Most of the limits are going to be small, like $100,000. So think about what your price point of your house is, or what your price point of the market that you're in, and you may want to look at limits. This is an incredibly inexpensive a coverage. You can probably max out E&O coverage for less than $500, maybe $400. In Louisiana, I can buy every limit that there is for about $425 per year. And what it does is it gives me, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $2 million, $2.5 million worth of coverage. Fair housing's a big deal. There's limits on fair housing. If you get sued, they can help you with HUD. Now they're looking at COVID claims. What happens if I hold an open house and somebody comes in and contracts, COVID, and I get sued as a result? Is it going to happen? There's the chance that that's out there. E&O companies are trying to figure out how they're going to cover those particular things as well. So you don't think about the liability until you get sued there as well. Brokers, you need to worry about tail coverage. If you're ever getting out of the business, tail coverage is going to be a very, very important coverage because it covers you kind of up to a year there as well. The last thing we'll do is life insurance. If you're a provider, if you provide any economic benefit to your family, I'd recommend life insurance. You don't need whole life, just need a simple term policy, because if there are people that are relying on you and you die, you don't want them to worry. And you can get relatively inexpensive life insurance just for a term policy, 20 years or so, for a reasonable amount. But I do think that you dying is a reality. All of us dying is a reality. But having a policy in place to help the team out should you go away really would be helpful. And then disability insurance. What would happen if you become disabled? Are you going to be continuing to work? Can you continue to work? This is a relatively expensive coverage, but it's something worth looking at. And I know insurance, the reason I like real estate is everybody's happy. Insurance, you only need insurance when something goes bad, right? So I don't really like talking about the bad stuff, but it is important to at least think about those things and going through that particular issue. The next person rather on the team is an attorney. I think an attorney can be important in helping you set up your business, help you setting up your life. I think they can be really important there as well. And they look at things differently. Your accountant certainly gives you some ideas as it relates to LLCs, corporations, S-corps. Your attorney can look at it from a little bit different of a way. And also, they can help you with my soapbox of recently is been getting a will. I think everyone should have a will, and everybody says, well, I don't need a will because I don't have anything. If you've ever worked a deal where there's some siblings that are looking to liquidate a property, you know that there can be a problem. Successions, while they're very helpful, a will creates a lot less fighting among family. Again, you only get to die once. So my recommendation is do it right. You do have assets, and with a will, you get to decide how those assets can be distributed. And you can tell people all you want, and you can hope, and you can believe in the succession laws of your state. But I assure you that people ultimately will be unhappy if they feel like your wishes are not met. Right before this happened, in the middle of February, we finished a deal where 3 siblings, all of them are now millionaires, and they hate each other. Why? Because dad died without a will. And one wanted to, it was a liquidation of a piece of property, a very nice piece of property. But because all 3 felt like dad's wishes were not being met, they all hated each other. And I'm like, guys, y'all are millionaires, so let's move on. But the other thing that I'll tell you is it doesn't have to be complicated. You can get one done for $400. I mean, it's not hard at all. It's a one-time cost, but it's something that I do think in the long run is going to be cheaper, and it helps the family make decisions a little bit easier. The next one we're going to talk about is a banker. I think particularly nowadays, having a relationship with a bank is very, very important. When you start looking at kind of the PPP, and that's kind of a buzzword out, and when you start looking at the first round and everybody that got the money during the first round in the early days, wouldn't you know, it was those people that actually had a relationship with their bank. Because they had a relationship with their banking institution, they were able to call their banker, get in line essentially, but because at the time they felt like the money was finite. So they got in and were able to reap the benefits of that PPP. So having a relationship with a banker can be very, very helpful. Many of you perhaps have a relationship. If you operate with a big bank, I know that that area is a big banking community. I would recommend getting to know someone at the local branch. Having a branch manager that's in there, someone of influence in the branch that you visit, I do think it's important there as well. So big banks can be helpful. Credit unions can be helpful. Community banks can be helpful. But someone that knows you when you walk in and can be able to answer those questions is very, very important. So you're in the people business. Having a banker is excellent people. The other part is referrals. Sometimes people are looking, the bankers are dealing with people all day long, and they're dealing with people's money all day long. So maybe that's an opportunity to go in there and say, hey, I want a banking relationship. I need different accounts. I need to know what to do. So perhaps you can get a referral relationship there as well. So credit unions, different local banks. If it's a big bank, get to know the bank manager, that sort of thing. A good opening line is I'm looking to change banks. That being said, you should be able to kind of move in there as well. Fundamentally, from a business standpoint, you need separate your business and your checking accounts if law allows. So you need to have a business account and you need to have a personal account. The first thing that the IRS looks for is, are you running your business like a business? And the easiest way to run your business like a business is to set up a business checking account. So you want to be, if you're running your business out of your personal account, I think it's a mistake. Number one, it's going to raise a red flag. But number two, it's going to be a lot easier to separate your business expenses from your personal expenses. So you need to separate 2 accounts. As a result, I would recommend 2 credit cards. All right. I have 4 things in my wallet. I'm a very simple person. So I have my driver's license, my Starbucks card, because Starbucks is important to me, a business credit card, and a personal credit card. That's it. That's the only thing that I keep in my wallet. And I use my business card for business-related expenses. I use my personal card for personal-related expenses. So you don't need 8 million credit cards that are out there. You can use them. That's fine. But for the most part, you need to separate your business and your personal world there as well. As it relates to credit cards, again, general rule, don't keep a balance. When you keep a balance on your credit card, that means you spend more than you make. So it's just like keeping a deficit in your bank account. All right, and I know that credit cards will allow you to do that. That's kind of how they make money. But I do think you need to be conscious of your spending. So do not keep a balance. You want to pay it off every month. All right, because if you have a high balance, you've exceeded your income. All right, that's really the philosophy that I think that's there. If you do have that discipline to pay it off every month, it can be very beneficial for safety reasons, for tracking reasons. That's why I don't use a debit card. I use a credit card just for safety and tracking reasons there as well. So we'll spend some time here on this one. The accountant, I do think the accountant's probably one of the more important individuals here as well. The first question that I always get is, do you need one? The short answer is yes, you absolutely need one, mainly because non-tax professionals doing their own return have twice the error rate and always have an increased chance of being audited. So let me repeat that. If you do your taxes yourself, you have twice the error rate than a professional. And think about it, right? When you look at a for sale by owner, you think, why in the world are they doing it themselves? Can they do it themselves? Sure. But if they hire a professional, I know what I'm doing and I'm able to sell the property and move the property. Accountants are the same way. Could you do it yourself? Yes. But it's much easier to hire a professional to allow them to do it, number one, correctly, and number two, with fewer errors there as well. The one thing that I think you need to look at when looking at an accountant or a CPA or a bookkeeper is understand that it's a partnership. And we talked about one of the things that I mentioned, you need to know what your philosophy is on the front end, is you need to know sort of how aggressive that you are. As it relates to taking deductions, how aggressive are you in terms of how aggressive do you want to be as it relates to taking deductions? Do you want to be very conservative, or do you want to go all the way up to the line and maximize every single solitary deduction that you want? All of it's perfectly legal. I'm not suggesting that in any way that you break the law, but there are certain degrees with how aggressive that you can get. And again, you need to understand your philosophy, because when you're looking for a CPA, you want someone with that same philosophy. Now, accountants and CPAs are conservative by nature, but if someone's ultimately conservative and they don't feel comfortable with you in the gray area, then should you get audited, you want somebody to back you 100%. Now, they're gonna, but if that's not their natural philosophy, then they may be a little bit hesitant. So you want to find one that is your risk tolerance, right? So my general rule is the conversation that I have is I want to go as far as I can without even raising a red flag, right? So some people don't mind raising a red flag. They don't mind being audited because they have the documentation to back it up. Perfectly okay. Me, I don't even want to be audited. So in that view, I have found a CPA that's a little bit more in line philosophically that where I am. So if you're super conservative, find one that's super conservative. If you're middle of the road, find one that's middle of the road. If you're aggressive, find one that's aggressive. I think finding a CPA that's your risk tolerance is really going to benefit you, because they're going to give you the advice that you're looking for, not necessarily the advice that helps them out. So my rules with CPAs is you want to meet 3 times a year. And this year obviously is a little bit different, but for the most part, the longest meeting should be in the summer. And the reason is they're less distracted, right? Look at a real estate transaction. We closed on a deal at the end of June, right? And we walked in there, and sure enough, there was 12 closings that particular day. Did we have a smooth closing? Yes. Did I think that the closing attorneys did everything that they were supposed to do? Absolutely. Mortgage people, they were fantastic. Okay. But there were 12 closings in a single day. So were they giving me 100% of my attention? Probably not. They did a great job, but we want to understand, if I would have closed at the middle of the month and I was the only closing that day, I would have had their singular and sole focus. Same thing holds true with CPAs. If the only time that you're talking to your accountant is late March and early April, you're making a mistake. Why? Because they're talking to all of their other clients as well. That's why in the summer is the best time to start dealing with them. Now, they just had some tax extended just recently. So now might be a good time to reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in finding out how you can help me with my business. And I'll give you some questions that you can ask them here in a second. So you need to meet in the summer when they're less distracted. October, I've kind of moved this. I'm more of the week before Thanksgiving is when I typically meet with mine. That's because you can look at year end. And by middle of November, late October, middle of November, I kind of know how my year is going to end. And this gives me plenty of time to plan. So if I need to save money, if I need to put money in a retirement account, if his recommendation is to buy a car, I can do those things. What happens is we talk to our CPA the last week of the year, and it gives us 7 days to make decisions. I like meeting in the middle of November because it gives you 45 days to make and plan for those year-end decisions. And then the last meeting, meeting is February and March. This should be, hey, we talked about in the summer, we found out what I was supposed to do in October. We're still on track. I'm ready to go. This needs to be the shortest of the meetings that there are. So speaking of taxes, this is the least efficient side of your business. And why? Because we're scared. We're scared of the IRS. And you should be. They're kind of scary there as well. A couple of myths. My accountant takes care of my taxes. My CPA takes care of my taxes. QuickBooks take care of my taxes. All of those are myths. We said that this is a partnership, all right? That's basically like saying my doctor takes care of my body. No, a doctor is a specialist, all right? They're going to be able to tell you kind of what's wrong and diagnose it and give you pills, but it's your opportunity. You have to take the medicine and you have to look after your body to get better. So taxes aren't something you just shift off into somebody else. It is something that you're going to have to do a little bit of work with there as well. When it comes to looking at agents, most agents struggle with their first year and their best year. Their first year mainly because they don't know what they're doing. Their best year because they're making a lot of money and they do really well, but they're not really sure how to manipulate that. So having that relationship with your CPA, when you're having a great year, they can help you shelter that income there as well. And by the time April rolls around and you say, you know what, I need to start taking deductions, it's going to be way too late. The ship sailed, you're gone. All right. So taking advantage of deductions is like earning a commission check. So here's a couple of things that I want to look at here. So let's just say that we made $50,000 GCI. We're going to get 25% for taxes. That means we're going to pay $12,500. Okay. Well, essentially, if I can find $10,000 worth of deductions, and trust me, that's relatively easy to find $10,000 worth of deductions at a $50,000 GCI, and we can reduce our taxable income from $50,000 to $40,000. All right. What that means is we didn't do anything different from an income standpoint. We made the same amount of income. It's just instead of telling the IRS we made $50,000, we're going to tell the IRS we made $40,000 legally because we're going to take $10,000 in deductions. Instead of paying the IRS $12,500, we're going to pay the IRS $10,000. So essentially what we've done is we've made or created $2,500 in savings just by paying attention. This is where a CPA can be very beneficial, and it shouldn't cost you $2,500 in order to do that. So as it relates to deductions, there's a couple of things that the 3 deductions that I think you need to talk to your CPA about. Mileage, okay? You need to talk about the mileage deduction. You need to talk about the meals deduction, and you need to specifically this year, you need to address the home office deduction, okay? So let's just kind of jump into this. The first thing, if you're taking mileage, the first thing you need to ask your CPA, are we using the IRS method or the actual expense method? There's 2 methods there. And generally speaking, if the IRS called it the IRS method, who's it easy for? It's easy for them. The actual expense method is basically a total percentage. So here you just keep your mileage and deduct your mileage. With this, you keep what percentage of that you used your automobile for business, and you not only get to deduct mileage, but you get to deduct gas, maintenance, different things like that. So ask, A, what's the difference? You want to ask your CPA, and B, which one do you recommend for me, okay? And again, mileage might be a little bit different depending. quick on new vehicles. If you're interested in purchasing a new vehicle, laws have changed over the past 2 years, almost 3 years now. It's much more beneficial, tax beneficial to buy rather than lease. But talk to your tax professional before you buy, because a car can be new. It doesn't have to be brand new. It can be new to you. And generally speaking, if you're going to buy a truck or an SUV, you want to get that 6,000 pounds. You want to get one that's heavy, that's over 6,000 pounds. And that way you can write off 100% in the year purchase based on whatever your business use is there as well. So today's day and age, it's better to buy than it is to lease. But certainly talk to your CPA there as well. For travels and meals, generally this used to be the meals and entertainment. But with the tax passage law in 2018, they got rid of entertainment. So, sporting events, play tickets, golf outings, those types of things are no longer deductible, but meals are still deductible. Okay. So you want to be able to keep good receipts, keep records, keep receipts, and take good notes there as well. As it relates to meals, or as it relates to anything, document according to the IRS standard and run your business like a business, not a hobby. So as it relates to what you need to keep for meals, it's pretty easy. The who, what, when, where, how much, and why. So all you need to do is write down, and typically I just write it on the receipt, because the receipt has the where, it has the when, and it has the how much. So who did you have lunch with? All right, we had lunch, or coffee in this case. We had coffee with John Smith. And then why? We talked about referrals. I asked for referrals. We talked a little bit about purchasing their home. I told them I would set them on an automatic CMA. All right, now here's the key, is you don't have to talk about business the entire time, but you do have to have some business related function. So all you need to do is write it down on the receipt and you're good. Now I know what you're asking. You're saying, Brent, you mean to tell me that the IRS is going to believe me that these meals are deductible? Yes. All right. It's called prospecting in good faith. And as long as you record it, then you're going to be fine. Typically, I like to do it on a receipt. Sometimes receipts can get smudgy, but for the most part, you should be good there as well. What can you deduct? You can deduct the meal, the drinks, so there's no exclusion for food only or drinks only. Mileage to and from the restaurant, we talked about mileage there as well. Also, if you're discussing business with your spouse, that doesn't count. As I said, I work and live with my wife. We go to dinner. We talk about business at dinner. We don't get to deduct that. There needs to be a third party that's present there as well. Do you have to buy everybody's dinner? Absolutely not. They have the Dutch treat rule, which allows you to purchase your own dinner. Everybody else can purchase their own dinner as well. So you have the opportunity to conduct Dutch. There is a limitation. The limitation is 100. So there's 100 breakfasts, 100 lunches, 100 dinners. But just know that there is a limitation. Typically, you're not going to meet that limitation as well. And then finally, the last thing that I want to talk about is the home office deduction. I think this is something that more people are going to take advantage of this year, kind of given the circumstances that we're in. And it's something that if you haven't taken it before, you need to talk to your tax professional about, because you're at home and you're working from home. Now, it's to some degree it's intricate. I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing, but number one, most of the time the people that don't take a home office deduction are scared. They may go to the office every day. They don't have necessarily a room that they call an office per se, or they rent and don't own their house. All of these are perfectly legitimate reasons to be scared. But number one, they're no singular reason to not take the deduction. Now, NAR was very instrumental in passing this home office deduction, getting it through Congress. There's an interesting pamphlet to read. They haven't come out with the 2020 version yet. But if you just want to Google IRS business use of your home, this would be the perfect thing to keep. It's not a very long document. It's about 30 pages, about 20 pages. It's not really exciting reading, but it tells you exactly how to do that. And if you want to sit down and read it, you can. But for the most part, and I'll get out of the way if you want to take a screenshot of it, but for the most part, this tells you how you can use the business use of your home. So number one, you want to talk to your CPA about it. Number one, do you have a room or a portion of a room that's used for business? If all you have is a desk, then just measure the desk, all right? You want to take a picture of it. All right, what is regular use? 45 minutes a day, 4 to 5 days a week. That's really the key there as well. Number one, don't forget business storage. So if you're storing your signs in a closet, if you put paper and office supplies in a portion of the closet, so not only do you want to measure the room or measure the desk, you want to measure all of your business storage as well. So if your signs are in your storage room outside, measure that. If you keep your paper, your printer paper in a closet, you want to measure that. So you want to be able to maximize that space, perfectly legal, perfectly legitimate in order to do. Now, for those of you that still go to the office, here's kind of the key, right? This is what the document says. Your home office will qualify as your principal place of business if you meet the following requirements. You use it exclusively and regularly for administrative or management activities of your trade or business. Pay attention to that. You have no other fixed locations where you conduct substantial administrative or management activities of your trade or business. So the question that I have for you is, what do you do at the office versus what you do at your home office, right? And at your office, you might do meeting clients, sales meetings, these types of things. Well, now that you're at home, you might be doing some other things, right? Paperwork, contracts, bookkeeping, continuing education, viewing courses like this, running CMAs, organizing your schedules. So the key, again, exclusively and regularly for what? Administrative and management activities. These are sales activities and are done outside of your home. These are administrative or management activities that are done what? In your home office. So and again, I don't want you to cheat. You need to be honest. If you're not doing these things at your home office, then you can't take the deduction. But now more than ever, I think we're doing more of these at home. And as a result, you have the ability to do that as well. All it is determining what square footage is there. You want to be able to get that. Again, we talked about the business storage. That can be helpful. The next thing is a financial planner. I think having a financial planner is very important for two reasons. Number one, you want to be able to, a lot of times the IRS makes you put things in a retirement account. Personally, I would like to, if you're going to give me money, I want to put it in an investment, but sometimes it's more tax advantageous to put it in a retirement account, and you need a financial planner there as well. So you want a good friend. And then finally, a mentor. You fall into one of two categories. Either you need a mentor or you need to mentor. Some of you are at a part of your career where you need to start raising the next crop of real estate agents. So go look for somebody to mentor, to offer advice to. If you're new or earlier in your career, or if you're looking to get into a new level, find a mentor. Be able to ask questions and understand exactly what's going on there. And with that, we are complete. That I was a few minutes short because we because we had a little accidental hiccup. So with that, I'd be more than happy to take any questions that you have out there. I know we kind of zoomed through some of that stuff, but I do think it's important to understand who needs to be on the team. And what we talked about is you need to be able to get advice elsewhere. All right, those people are going to be able to offer that. If you have any questions or need anything, by all means, I'll make myself available here. There's my email address. Feel free to email me. I'd be more than happy to explain some things that perhaps we went by very quickly. If you want a copy of some of this stuff, I'd be happy to email that to you as well. As everybody talked about, this is being recorded, so hopefully you can come back and monitor this as well. All right, well, you guys have a wonderful day. Really appreciate it, and till next time.